Hi everyone, and welcome to Our Amazing Kids. My name is Dory, and we are here with our resident reptile expert, and now my friend. This is Steven. So everybody say hi to Steven. So Steven, I hear that you love reptiles.
Yeah, I really liked reptiles since I was 5 or around there. And I just really thought they were really interesting on how they looked and how they acted, what they ate, just everything about them. I was just loved them so much.
So every kind of reptile?
Yeah, really every kind of reptile that I could see, get my hands on, or read about. I just loved to learn about them and see them and touch them and interact with them in any way. They just were just so interesting to me.
Yeah, and what has always been, is there a favorite that you have? Is there one that's really resonated with you?
My favorite types of reptiles have really been snakes or chameleons, because they're just so interesting, and chameleons, how they can just change color, and snakes, how they just move and see with just such a small body and no legs.
Yeah, I love chameleons, how they have like those googly eyes.
Yeah,
and
how they can look multiple directions.
And their
at
little
once.
feet that like grab really.
2 fingers.
Yeah. Have you seen the video where they try and like grab the water and he's just too slow for it?
I haven't
No.
seen that.
So
I want to though. I'll
Yeah,
look it
okay,
up.
you gotta look it up. I've heard that bearded dragons, I don't know, you can tell me if this is true, they have like the same intellect as a 2 or 3-year-old child.
I don't know what intellect means.
That's okay. The same, they're just as smart as a 2 or 3-year-old kid.
Well, maybe they're really smart, so I would give them maybe around there, but they're more of a hunter than a 2 or 3-year-old kid.
More of a, yeah, 2 or 3-year-old kids
They sleep as
like,
much,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, these little kids aren't out, hunting for flies and mice
Yeah.
and stuff, huh?
yeah.
That's great. Now, what about turtles? Turtles are reptiles, right?
So yeah, turtles are reptiles, but what interested me is just, I don't know a lot of reptiles. There are ocean iguanas, and they can hold their breath for like 30 minutes, for what I believe.
Yeah.
And but turtles are just really interesting, and how they have that shell and how the shell helps them and stuff.
Yeah. I can't believe 30 minutes. I'm like 2 seconds and then I'm
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I can't breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what was it that really interested you in reptiles? Do you remember something?
Well, they just look weird.
They do, yeah.
Like, especially chameleons with those hands. Like, how do they manage to just move around how fast, and even though they are slow, but how they just move and survive, and how weird they are.
Yeah.
So just all the different weird reptiles and how they looked and how they ate and how they survived really was just sparks, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
I want to study more about these
They're
animals.
just so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, reptiles can be a little scary, like snakes
Yeah.
and lizards. And so why do you think that they weren't scary to you?
Well, really the first time I saw a reptile, I think it was either in a book or on TV. So I wasn't scared that much, because on a book it can't hurt me.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, I don't know really, but I really don't, it bothers me when people are like scared of reptiles.
Totally.
And I'm trying to help people, like when someone's scared of reptiles, I'll slowly and gradually move closer to them if they're
Yeah.
scared, and so
Yeah.
they'll gradually overcome their fears of reptiles.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, helping people be kind to all species.
Yeah.
So that's amazing that you have that mission. So can you tell me, I like reptile facts, and I was telling you there's a guy that comes and teaches us about reptiles where I work. Do you have like a favorite reptile fact that you like to tell people?
Not really,
Not really,
but I
yeah.
do know that if humans had tongues like frogs, it would reach down to our belly button.
If human had, so if we had the same ratio of tongue size as frogs, it would reach our belly button.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Like walking
That'd be
around?
so weird.
Like if we were walking around catching flies too?
That would be weird.
I agree.
With frogs and humans eating flies, flies would go out of.
Yeah, that's true.
They would go
We'd be
extinct fast.
competing with frogs.
Yeah, I think we do a little better.
I think so.
But
I think so. But you never know.
yeah, they've done it for about like 100 more years than us. So
Yeah.
we haven't even started.
True.
Not yet.
It would
I'm
take
not
a
saying
long-
it won't happen.
True.
But
It would take a really long time for us to evolve those long tongues. Huh?
yeah, just one fly at a time, though.
One fly at a time. That's the motto. One fly at a time.
fly at a time.
I heard that snakes smell with their tongues.
Yeah, it's weird how they do it. It's kind of alien-like, but yeah, they're on Earth. But what they do is when they flick their tongue out, and they do that so they collect warmth particles in the air. And when you see those little dots that look like miniature noses on the side of their mouth, those are actually like what help them sense the heat, so they kind of see in heat, so they can tell whether something is hot or cold or warm. So that's also how they help them hunt.
Yeah, so they see things in different colors based on how warm it is.
Yeah.
So
From what I believe.
yeah, so if it's warmer, is it more red maybe
Yeah.
to them? And,
Yeah, that's
okay, so kind of
like
an
when you look
infrared.
through one of those cameras and
Yeah.
it's like infrared or something.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. So, Stephen, you are just amazing. I love learning from you and talking to you. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to meet Stephen's own friend expert. His name is Nautilus, so we'll see you soon.
We just finished dinner and it was time for homework. He hates homework. I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just
trying
gotta
as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
1 in 5 children struggle with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to understood.org.
Hello, and welcome back to Our Amazing Kids. As promised, we have, I think, probably the best expert of all, an actual snake. So Stephen has his friend Nautilus here, right?
Yeah, so Nautilus is a pewter ball python, which I believe is from Australia or Africa, either one. But he's still really young, so
Yeah.
I don't know what he can tell us so far.
So you were telling me, how old is Nautilus?
He's about 8 months now, and yeah.
Yeah, so tell me the story of how you got Nautilus.
So I got Nautilus for Christmas, but I had so many choices. But eventually I choose Nautilus, my buddy here, because he just was a beautiful color.
He is stunning. He's just adorable. I was so surprised when you walked in and you showed me. I was like, oh my God, he's so cute.
Yeah, when I got him, I had the same reaction the first day I got him.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not? Look at him.
I know, right?
So what is it like having a snake as a pet?
Well, it's nice because you know, they're really easy to afford, and they're just so cool. Holding them, you really don't have to worry about them as long as you're just sitting still and you're not running around the house while you're holding them or something.
Yeah.
But it's just once they find a comfortable spot, unless they're like Nautilus, because he's the most curious snake on Earth. Once he finds a comfortable spot, he'll just chill, and you can do whatever you want. You can watch TV, you can play video games, you can read a book, really. And so they're just really chill.
Yeah, it seems like it. And you were telling me that they wrap themselves around you, kind of like a bracelet.
Yeah, sometimes he'll kind of wrap himself around me to make me a little snake bracelet. And other times he will, at my birthday party once, we had a whole bunch of snakes, and they would wrap around your waist, and some would wrap around your neck as a necklace.
Oh my goodness.
And they really just find a spot and chill, really.
Yeah, and they're just happy to hang out and be there with you.
Yeah, they're like the laziest creatures on Earth, except they're really active, which is weird.
That is quite the opposites there, huh?
Yeah.
So can you ever just walk around the house with him wrapped around your
Yeah,
your
I
wrist?
can. It's just, yeah, as long as you're not swinging your arms around or like running around, like I said, he'll be chill. And because they're strong and they are safe with themselves. They'll anchor themselves maybe on a pinky, on a thumb, on any finger around your wrist or something. And they'll just chill, and they won't fall off. They'll slip around a little because their scales are so smooth. But they're just really chill, and I've said chill a lot now.
Yeah, it's okay. It's the perfect word to describe it.
Yeah.
So.
But they just latch on, and they're there for the ride as long as you're not crazy.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised, and I feel like for a lot of people, you look at them, or when you think of snakes, you think kind of slimy, or you're gonna touch it,
Scary.
you know? Yeah, and then but when you touch it, it's so smooth, and it's actually very soft.
Yeah, and sometimes they can get moist from just getting warm, but they're just really smooth and soft, you know? And so I don't really like it when people are like, yeah, I don't like snakes, they're so slimy and scary. I'm like, no, they're really not.
Yeah, and that's misinformation.
Yeah. I'm like, they're really not, why don't you touch mine? They're like, no.
Yeah, and I know that we're all very curious. What's it like feeding a snake?
So I know a lot of people don't like watching snakes feeding, but we get a mouse from a lot of different pet stores, you know, and if we want it to go faster because we're kind of in a rush, you know, we'll close all the blinds in the room and close the doors, turn off all the lights and stuff because they're nocturnal hunters. But then we'll just put the mouse in the cage, and then we have to kind of keep an eye because if the mouse is in there too long, the snake will just get normal and the mouse could hurt the snake.
Oh, interesting. Because the mouse is, I mean, he's so tiny. Is the mouse big compared to?
No, because if we fed him too big of a mouse, he would take a really long time to digest, and he could hurt himself just by himself. You know, so there are multiple levels of mice from where we get them, and we get a hopper-sized mouse, which is just below the normal size mouth, but it's still on the lower size.
Yeah, and still, I mean, looking at his mouth, it's pretty tiny. So how do snakes' jaws work?
Well, actually, it's weird because you think that they'd have to break their jaw to get a mouse so big in there, but actually they can unhinge their jaw, like unhinging a door, except a jaw, and that's how they are able to get the mouse down. And with that ability, they can actually swallow it whole instead, because if they couldn't unhinge their jaw and swallow it whole, then they would have a very hard time chewing it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes me think back to the frog tongue, and if we had unhinged jaws and we could just like...
Yeah, that would be weird. Just eating a whole turkey at Thanksgiving whole.
Yeah. Oh my
That'd be
goodness.
weird.
Yeah. One jaw unhinged at a time, right?
Yeah. We can do it.
We can do it. We got this. So many things to evolve, right?
Yeah.
So what about shedding?
Shedding. So I think he's actually getting near shedding, because one of the signs is they'll be a little bit more defensive, and they might be a little bit more aggressive. But their eyes will actually get like cloudy, and so if they're normally black, they'll go kind of gray and they'll get more shiny.
Interesting.
And then I think it starts with the face, but it'll just, these scales will come off at some time. The color will stay the same. They won't come from black to rainbow. But the color will stay the same, and really it's just a sign because their skin doesn't grow with them like humans and mammals. So they need to change it, otherwise it'll get way too small and hurt them.
Said they get a little grumpy when they're starting to shed. Is that maybe because they're uncomfortable in that skin?
Well, the weird thing is, this is really weird, and from what I believe is they actually shed their eyes somehow. Like, not their whole eye, but they have like a layer on top of their eye to protect it because they can't blink.
Oh my goodness. Oh, because they don't have eyelids, right?
No, they don't. So that's why their eyes are getting all cloudy and stuff.
That's that part that's coming off. It's cloudy.
Yeah,
their
so
eyes.
they can't see as well. So they're like grumpy, and
That would make
if
me
you were
irritable,
half blind
too.
and someone
Yeah.
started poking you,
Yeah.
you would get grumpy too.
Yeah, your world looks totally different. You're like, oh, who's that? Who's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd be grumpy too, but like.
But thankfully, this snake is really young, so he doesn't get grumpy.
Yeah, that's good. He's just a little baby, huh?
He's shed once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how big is Nautilus going to get?
From what I believe and what everyone is telling me, he will grow up to 2 or 3 feet.
2 or 3 feet. Wow, that's
Yeah,
really
it's
tall.
Big.
Yeah, that is long.
And I think they will get about that thick.
About this thick and like
Yeah.
2 or 3 feet about. That's a big
Yeah, and
snake.
I've seen once I went to the store and this woman came in and it was a reptile store and they had some big snakes and apparently she had a really big snake and she's like, yeah, I'll just have a decent sized rat at the clerk, and I was like, how big is your snake? Dang, you're feeding it rats?
How big was it? Did you see?
I don't know. They
don't know.
must have kept it at their house because if they're feeding it rats, it must be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some snakes can get huge, like the Australian rock python. They can get huge, and there are videos online of it like swallowing gazelles.
That could swallow me too.
Probably.
Yeah. I was reading up on snakes, getting ready for Nautilus.
Yeah.
And I read that some of the biggest ones are up to like 28, 30 feet.
Yeah. In Florida, they have a Bernese python hunt, and those snakes get huge. And so they're unnative, so they need to get them out of Florida, and they have this gigantic hunt, and whoever brings in the most Bernese pythons will get, I think, a cash prize, dead or alive.
Wow.
And it kind of disappoints me because there's so many other uses that you could use for snakes instead of just a hunt and cash prizes. But I do get that they're kind of destroying the ecosystem because they eat big stuff that relies on other stuff.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
That maybe we could transport
something
them
else,
to another
yeah.
place.
Or
We
a
don't
zoo.
have to. I think sometimes a lot of people think because animals are scary or they look scary that they don't have as much of a right to be here.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that's not really fair to put that on little Nautilus, right?
Yeah, but he's not a Bernese python,
Which is
so.
which is great. I'm glad he's not a Burmese python.
Yeah, he would
Yeah.
get big. I've heard of stories where like people own these huge snakes and they'll legit need another room
Oh my goodness.
to keep their snake in. So if you have 3 people and you all have your own room, you need a 4th for that snake.
Yeah.
Because it's just so big, it
my
can't fit in any container. It's just so big that you legit have to get its own room.
Welcome to my snake's room. Here's his bed.
It's very big.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, 30 feet. I'm 5 feet tall. That is 5 of me.
More
That
than
snake.
5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Thank you. More than 6. See, he's smarter than me, you guys. Doesn't even know. I don't even know 5 times 6 is 30, right?
Don't worry, I won't pressure you.
Okay, thank you so much.
But it's
I really
just
appreciate
incredible to keep those huge snakes as pets.
it. Yeah, it really is. I can't even imagine having that in a house. Like, this little guy, okay, this
Yeah,
is a
it's
nice little
normal,
friend,
he's not huge that
Yeah.
you need his own room, but he's enough to comprehend. I don't even think I could take one, because imagine what they'd have to eat, like
Yeah.
dogs or something.
Can I hold Nautilus?
Yeah, no problem.
Hi. You are the cutest. I know you were saying earlier that it's soothing, and it really is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and we were talking about the muscles.
Yeah, I like when he's moving around because you can just feel all the muscles, and it's really just like a massage, really.
Yeah. So is it all muscle? Do you know?
Well, they still have the normal intestines and flesh, like stomachs, hearts, and
Yeah,
stuff.
of
But
course.
otherwise, the only really way they can move is by muscle because they don't have arms. So, from what I believe is how they move is they just they move their muscles and they kind of squirm their muscles around, and that's how they move. And if you ever see that motion, that's another way to get faster and it's just really weird how they move. I don't even fully understand it.
Yeah, it just seems like, like you said, out of this world kind of
Yeah,
alien.
it's kind of alien-like, and you don't really get it. And to
Yeah.
really understand it, you'd have to cut one open, and I'm not willing to do that.
No, definitely not. We could do our research and see what it
Look
looks
online.
like. But is it true that, I think I get it confused between snakes and lizards, but that snakes, the tail is actually only like a tiny part of it because their intestines are so long within their body?
Well, I don't really know much about it, but I just say that they have a head and the rest of the body is their tail.
Yeah,
really.
seems like it.
And some lizards actually store some of their meals and all their fat in their tail. Or
Lizards do?
Yeah, some lizards do. So, and that also helps the ability to be able to drop off because they're not dropping off any important intestines.
That's so interesting about lizards. I had no idea about where they store that, and that's such a crazy defense mechanism. Have you ever seen one drop off its tail?
My cat,
Your
does
cat.
that multiple times. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Just let that poor
Just let
lizard
him be.
live.
Yeah.
What'd he do to you?
Yeah.
Or she.
Or she,
I'm
yeah.
not being offensive, don't worry.
No, I know you're not. You were very kind, I can tell.
Yeah, but I've seen it happen. Yeah, once one of my relatives picked one up by the tail, and it just totally popped off and ran away. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah. I
I
remember.
was so surprised by it.
Yeah.
We ended up keeping the tail. But then it started smelling bad, so we threw it away.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a little stinky, especially if it has that old food in there that you were talking about,
All those bugs.
Yeah. I work with kids at a camp sometimes, and so I was with a few girls and a couple little boys too, and the tail dropped off, and it was just like mutiny. Just running around, didn't know what happened.
Oh
It's
my
okay,
gosh.
It's natural, it's natural.
I think from in your case, they didn't know what was happening. Like, is it hurt? Yeah,
Exactly.
But it's all natural.
Exactly.
Don't worry.
And that's why awareness, what you were trying to do, is so important, right? So
Yeah.
people and kids do understand.
Yeah, I always try to free the lizard. Because they're in shock, I always can just scoop it up real easy and
Yeah.
put it in a bush. But somehow my cat always seems to find the same exact lizard. It's like a magnet or something.
That lizard's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great of you, though. So we have a couple more minutes. Do you have anything that you want to, say to people to really encourage them to be more kind to reptiles and give them a chance, if you will?
Rattlesnakes are the kindest reptiles.
Really?
Or rattlers and all the different species of rattlers, because they warn you. They're like, no, I'm angry, go away, with their rattle and stuff.
That's such a good point. I didn't think of it that way.
It's a weird thing to think about.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different concept that people don't really think about, They just think of it as a warning,
Yeah.
Not really. It makes them seem like they have more of a conscience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact that they're taking the time to communicate, hey, like we talked about,
Instead
you're in
of
my
just
space.
like dry biting them,
Yeah.
which is biting them without any venom going in.
Exactly, which means that they're not out to get us, or
Yeah, they're
anything
like,
that-
just leave me alone in my personal space.
Yeah, that's so important. Well, Stephen, I must say you are an amazing kid. It's been
you.
so wonderful talking to you. I'm like, can you be my best friend? No, but you are an inspiration. The fact that you want to help people be kinder to animals, and really that'll help people be kinder to
Yeah.
everyone. And so it's amazing kids like you who are going to change our world. So thank you so much for coming on here and sharing Nautilus with us and with me. And I see the little holes that you were talking about
Yeah.
for the temperature, and that is so neat.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah. But I'm sad our time is over.
Yeah.
But thank you again so much. Here
No,
is
thank you.
Nautilus. And thank you to all of you. This has been our Amazing Kids with Stephen and Nautilus. I am Dory. You can catch us every Saturday morning at 8:30. I know it's going to be so fun to watch. You're going to meet so many wonderful people. And you can also catch us on YouTube at Our Amazing Kids /NCTV. Thank you so much.